As you know, I'm Caroline de Posada, and I welcome you here. If you are new and you're here because of Mark, thank you for coming to our interview. I am so excited to introduce him. This is a cool thing because Mark is a special case, right? I'm an attorney, as you guys know, and my husband is a criminal defense attorney, which is a breed in and of its own. And my attorney world is very, very different than my personal development world. And you never see the two worlds really collide, except for some quirky people like myself. And then comes Mark Eiglarsh, who is that hybrid. He is a criminal defense attorney, and an amazing one at that. And he is in the personal development space. So not only are my husband and I friends with him in the lawyer world, but I also have the benefit of his friendship in the personal development world. So for me, it's a big honor to have him here today to share with you guys, because as you know, it is my goal in life to introduce you to the amazing people that I have the privilege of surrounding myself with, and Mark is no exception. Now, Mark is a formerly unhappy guy who made a career of solving everyone's problems but his own, but he decided to reclaim his happiness. Now, you guys may, hang on a second, you guys may know him already because he is a national and TV expert. Now, take a look.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Eiglarsh, sitting in for my dear friend, Dr. Drew. Thank you so much for letting me keep the chair warm for you tonight.
Ludicrous.
Mark, why are you sleeping through Kelly's court?
I really I want to know, Mark.
Is it my turn? Thank you, Kimberly. The sheer length of her arguments affords me the opportunity to catch up on some needed rest. But I wouldn't want the burden of proof lowered to get the guy who killed my son. The minute we lower the burden of proof for Zimmerman, for Casey Anthony, for OJ, whoever else you think might have gotten away with it, then when you're arrested, that burden of proof is lowered and we all suffer.
Roland, Mark makes an excellent point here.
There was a poll recently of people who hate people, and apparently Casey Anthony was on the list of the most hated person in the United States, more hated than Sandusky and Bernie Madoff.
Do you think wow.
And by the way, you know who was number two? This surprised me. Kim Kardashian? Really? For real. Stop it. For real. Because they can't keep up with her. Right. That's the problem.
I think I have an answer. I think it's in Mark's studio. Can you please cut to Mark's studio? Zero in on his studio for me, please. Mark, give me a full screen. There. Mark, the fog.
Yes, true.
What's happening?
What are you talking about?
What have you done?
I think it's ego that they chose not to bring the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in, or the FBI, and I would tell them your ego's not your amigo.
Would you defend her? I mean, you've already taken the other.
Why am I on the hot seat here?
Because you said that you would not defend the
I'm going to take a pass on this one, too.
You're passing on everything.
I like the audience clapping, so I'm going to take a pass on this one. Thank you.
That is super awesome, Mark. Thank you for sharing that with us. That gives you an idea of Mr. Eiglarsh. He is a TV personality and a criminal defense attorney. And as you can see, he knows how to argue. He's aggressive. He's a fighter. And he's here to talk to us about happiness and mindfulness and cultivating a spiritual practice. This doesn't make any sense. Mark, how did you get here?
Well, you invited me, and I thank you for that. I am super grateful. I think the world of you. It's, first of all, wonderful to see all of you. Dave Bricker, love you. He helped me write a book, and I'm so grateful. William, everybody, it's really a privilege to be here. How did I get here? All the pain that I went through somehow got me to this moment. I already see Rosemary nodding her head because it's from pain that we grow. And when I was going through it, no one could tell me it was for any benefit, but I look back and I go, oh my God, thank God for all the crazy stuff that happened in my life, which if you want me to bleed in front of you people, I will. I'll share with you my victim story, but that ultimately led to the happy person that I choose to be at this moment.
Well, we have people in this audience who know pain. They really know pain. And I think every story has pain in it. So I am dying to know, what pain did you go through? What?
All right. Well, listen, you got a few hours, so
Yeah.
I'll give you the lowlights, or the highlights, as you call it. Well, first of all, as a profession, I argue for a living. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world until it wasn't. In other words, I argue with people. Like, can't we all just get along? No, you want to put my guy away for life. I want probation, and we're going to argue, right? I realized that when I went to court, for example, if the judge treated me nicely, I was in a good mood. The prosecutor gave me what I wanted, I was happy. If the jury said the words that I wanted to hear, there was joy. And conversely, when I didn't get what I wanted, and again, substitute everything in your life that you want that you don't get, right? I was miserable. You didn't want to be around me. And when I did get what I wanted, let's say, the happiness was short-lived, because then, I'd be driving back to my office or taking my kids somewhere, and then somebody would cut me off in traffic. Something as simple as that. It's on. Yeah. How dare you do that to me? So I would surrender leadership of myself for about a mile until I caught up to them and gave them what they needed, And I'd like to tell you that my precious offspring were never in the car when that occurred. But, I was nuts, I was up and down. Yeah.
I have to tell you this. So I believe in preventative therapy. And I'm all about marriage therapy and personal therapy and just going to therapy. And I remember one time I dragged my husband by the collar, and I was like, we need to go to marital therapy because it's, our marriage wasn't on the rocks, but we have problems just like everybody else. And I was like, we need to figure this out. So I take him, we go to a therapist, and the therapist is asking him questions about his life and about this. And he's just to explain what his life looks like as a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
I was a public defender. For me, I know the world you're talking about because it's if you've lived it, if you've been that attorney, I know what you're talking about. I know, if a judge is mean to you, how you feel. I know that. But it never occurred to me to look at it from an outsider's perspective. And when the therapist heard his story, she looked at him and she was very quiet and she said, that must be very stressful. You must carry so much burden. And the things that I looked at, it never occurred to me what he was carrying, because I did that for 2 years. He's been doing it for 20. And you've been doing it for how long?
In spite of my youthful appearance, 30 years. But you're making it all about, I think everybody's got stressful jobs. I really don't think that somehow my job, or, being a mother, taking care of kids, making sure everything's organized, it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that, when I say, oh, well, I'm an attorney and I fight for people, substitute whatever stresses that you have in your life. Everybody's got the same thing. So you don't say, well, he's an attorney, so he has it worse, or she's got this, so it's better, or fill in the blank. It's all stress, or it's all pain. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Right? I mean, I can go into more detail of how we lost our first child halfway through our pregnancy and how there was no love in our household and it was crazy. I mean, we can get into
You lost a child?
Yes. I was kissing her belly for 19 weeks and change, excited for our child. We thought the worst thing that would happen would be the doctor would screw up and tell us the sex of the baby. We didn't want to know. We wanted to be surprised. And by that, I mean, my wife said, we don't want to know. We want to be surprised. I said, surprise. It's either a boy or a girl. It's not going to be a llama, honey. But we wanted to be surprised. So we go in and I could see the doctor's demeanor completely change after he showed us, oh, this is the heart. Everything's fine. You hear the beat. It's all good. Then he moved to the brain and he showed how the brain was growing outside the skull. And I didn't get it. I'm like, oh, we have a baby Einstein. He's so bright, his skull doesn't contain his brain. No, rare and neurological tube disorder known as encephalocele. It affects a fraction of 1% of all children. And our baby, we were told, would not live outside the womb.
Wow.
So I'm telling, and then to do the procedure, but our doctor was skiing. So for a week, it's like, the baby's still inside. This life is still inside of my wife. And we had to wait a week. And we had Super Bowl tickets because our friend owned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the time. And we were, going to go up. Now, what do you do? Do you go? Do you celebrate? We're in no condition to celebrate. It was rough. It was a rough time. And just to add to it, again, you want to throw my victim story out there. After we terminated our pregnancy, I mean, this was brutal. And it's even more brutal for me now because I know what I lost. I have 3 other children now, but I didn't know what I lost. So I was like, Tony Robbins this shit. We'll just get it again, honey. No big deal. Oh my goodness. How dare I? I didn't know. I didn't have the tools. I didn't know how to let my wife grieve. So what do? I bring home a yellow lab puppy. We didn't need a puppy. We had just renovated our home. That thing tore up the house, but we had all that love to give. And now we put it on this puppy, who then was about a year old, was gnawing on a softball that had made it over the fence from the neighbors when they were throwing it or something out in the yard or whatever. That dog was gnawing on the softball. And I said, I wish I was half as happy as that dog, how passionately she was ripping off the leather portion of the softball. Later that afternoon, my wife said, we need to take the dog in. There's something wrong. I will never forget the noise that came from my wife when the doctor told her our dog, Star, with 2 R's, did not make it through the surgery.
Oh.
We were back to square one. And so how do you deal with all that? I wouldn't trade all that for the world now. You understand? I believe that Star was put on in our lives for a purpose to carry us through the next pregnancy, because my wife was pregnant. We're going, how are we going to deal with Star now? When she's this crazy ass puppy, really big, and my wife is pregnant and she's going to, have a baby soon. Like, how's that going to work out? So we believe that God put that beautiful puppy in our lives for a reason. We believe that the loss of the child served us well. I mean, there's no other way to look at it that's healthy, and that's how we choose to deal with it.
I love how you say that you choose to deal with it. And that's a big thing for you. I have a book here that for any of you who haven't read it, this is Mark Eiglarsh's book, which was edited by Dave Bricker. So it's really good. And it's Be Happy by Choice, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. And you are all about choices. That is a huge thing for you. So talk to me a little bit about choosing. Some people would say that they don't have a choice on how they feel.
And you know what I would tell them? You're right. You're right. If you believe that you don't have a choice, then you're right. I'm not going to try to change their mind. In fact, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind here. I'm just telling you, as I tell audiences, this is what worked for me. I was a cantankerous, at times, insecure person who didn't love himself unconditionally, who brought in love from the outside, who needed everybody's okay to be okay. My mother raised me not, hey, how'd you do in the trial? How do you feel? How did you do on The View? How did you do on this TV show? She'd be like, what'd they say? What'd they say? What'd they say about you? What'd the judge say? Mom, who gives a fuck what the judge says about me? How about how I feel? It was very frustrating. May she rest in peace. I love her to death. But she literally was always concerned about what everybody else thought. Now it's all about how I feel. And I don't feel very good that I just used the F word. I could have used a different word because lack of profanity never offended anyone. I take that back. I apologize. Hopefully it won't happen again. But it is a choice. In every single moment, we have a choice. We can't control what happens to us. Somebody is going to cut us off in traffic. You are going to have someone who is just nasty. Someone is going to think that their Twizzler bag does not make any noise next to you in the movie theater. There's going to be someone who thinks that it's their gift, that they're bathing themselves in their perfume and then sitting next to you on a plane. I mean, these are just one of the many things that just come to mind. There's so many. And in every given moment, I'm triggered and I have a choice and I go through it. I say, okay, you could choose to go down to Chinatown, be the old person, that used to be, and go nuts and lose your you-know-what and be miserable. And how's that going to be for my wife or anybody around me? Or option number 2 is to reframe the situation, right? That person, my goodness, what must they smell like that they needed all that perfume? And thankfully, I'm smelling Chanel rather than crap, whatever else, like that person just doesn't know about the licorice. They don't realize it. And perhaps I come at them with love and just say, I love licorice too. It's fantastic. I'm having a tough time hearing the scream. And sometimes they, like my neighbor, before this neighbor, I went up to him, I said, for months, we haven't been sleeping because, Saturday, Sunday, those are days to sleep in. And your dog, you let him out like at 5, 6 in the morning. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we would love to be able to sleep. Is there any way you can do something about that? And I came with love. I had planned it for months. I let it go. And he said, and by the way, I promised I wouldn't curse, but I'm quoting what he said. He looks at me, goes, "It's a fucking dog, Mark." And I went, okay, all right. So then I had to go into acceptance mode and pray for him and wish him everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever needed, health, peace, and prosperity. That wasn't my first choice, but trust me, I needed to get there. Then he passed away several months later, and I didn't lose sleep over it. But
It's interesting because, so this month in our core membership, we're talking about cultivating a spiritual practice. And we've talked a lot about spirituality and about mindfulness, and happiness and mindfulness go along with spirituality. But what is interesting, what's amazing to me is you're so passionate and high energy, and you're this criminal defense attorney, but I know that you are a very spiritual person. And I know that you believe so much in mindfulness. So it's cool to see how people with different personalities, with different mannerisms, with different approaches to life can still come to a consensus of the importance of having mindfulness and spirituality and happiness. So how did you start learning about that? I mean, were you always a spiritual person, always mindful person? How did you learn to become this way?
I think we've all got some of that in us. I mean, look, we some of us suck our thumbs in utero, that calms us down. There's certain tools that we all have. Even going to mommy and daddy and complaining, that got out how you felt about certain things. We all have spiritual tools. So I think we're all on some spiritual level, right? Not everybody like myself goes out to the Deepak Chopra Wellness Center in Carlsbad, California, and learns how to become a better meditator. And I can save you all, 7,500 or 10 grand or whatever the hell I spent on deep pockets. There's no wrong way to meditate. You don't have to learn how to meditate. Meditation is just being, and we could talk about that, but there's never been a bad or wrong meditation, even when the dog is barking and even when the kids come in on you. In fact, I hope that they do, because that's the best way they can learn that dad meditates. So, I've changed my thoughts on that.
And did you learn that with Deepak Chopra? Did you?
I went all the way out there to Carlsbad to learn there's no bad or wrong way to meditate. I'm like, really? I came here to learn how to be a better meditator. And if we have some time, we could talk about meditation, but there's no bad meditations. The bad ones, I guess, is when you just don't do it, You spend a minute a day sitting there, and even if you have thought for that minute, it's still okay. There's value to that. It's the time in my day, amongst many other times in my day, where everything is perfect. I'm going to judge and condemn and blame my meditations. No longer. That's when I'm being loving to myself. Why would I ever do that? But to go back to your question, there's so much. Aristotle said, take charge of your thoughts. You can do what you will with them. What I get from that is happiness is a decision. And there's 100 more quotes just like that. Happiness truly is a decision. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, for example, either, holy crap, how dare they do that to me, blah, 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 and you get all into it. Or, I don't know what his situation is. Maybe he just got word that his wife, her water broke and she's on her way to the hospital. And he's going to go meet her there. Maybe he had the worst day in the world. Maybe fill in the blank. I'll come up with any scenario other than me taking it personally.
But how did you get there?
Well, hold on.
How did you get to that?
Graduate. Just so we're clear, you don't graduate. There are times where you would be like, oh, look at Mark. He's going after that person again. And then I'd probably, so I'm not perfect, just so we're very clear. I have my moments, but I am so much better today than I've ever been. How do you get there? First of all, it starts with pain. And I used to not talk about this, but my wife just published her book. So she that's, with Dave, we had to gut my book, not only to make it readable, it's only 110 pages, which probably the best thing about it, because people are actually reading it and then they feel happy they actually read the book. I've got 50 books by my bed, all where I've read maybe 10, 15 pages and I never get through it. So at least mine, you can read in a few hours and it's real simple. So I'm not plugging it. I'm just saying it just needs to be simple. So I did not put in there about my wife's getting some cough medicine for a cough, right? And all of a sudden, wow, that cough medicine just not only took care of the cough, but it took care of all of her other issues that she had. She felt sexier. She felt like she didn't have a care in the world. And again, I don't know how many times, if any, I've told this publicly, but it's now in her book. And she became dependent upon opioids. Once you start, you go. She went into treatment and all that stuff. And so she went on her spiritual path. And while she's doing that, I said, I got to do something for myself. And I went to this Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, these groups where if your life is affected by the alcohol or drug use of another. And I walked in, I go, oh my God, that's Jesus on the wall. I'm a Jew going to a church and I'm sitting in a room and I'm seeing Jesus's ribs. And that's so violent. I'm going, what am I doing here? What is she putting me through? I blamed her till I got to the point where I go, I'm the one who's got the problem. I need to learn how to love myself unconditionally. So I don't put it in the book because my wife hadn't told her story. And by me talking about Al-Anon and Nar-Anon and working the 12 steps, right? By doing all those things, 12 steps are phenomenal. I realized first that I'm powerless over everyone. I can't control a jury anymore. I can't control what you people think of me. And by the way, what people think of me is none of my business. I don't care anymore. I really don't. Now, I want my message to resonate, so I do want feedback and I'll adjust that. But how I think about myself will be contingent upon how I feel like I did, not how anybody else felt.
I have to stop you here for a second because I think you said something so powerful and I want to repeat it. So you walked into Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, all these things, because your wife has a dependency issue, which is clearly affecting your life.
Oh.
And what you take out of it is that you are your problem.
Right.
So you take the blame completely away from her.
Hold on. Blame. What are we, human beings? I'm trying to live a spiritual existence. Blame.
Well, how easy. That's what people do.
I know.
Right? Isn't that what people do?
That's their problem. Listen, I am a human being trying to live a spiritual existence. And if I want to be right all the time, then I'm not going to be happy. 99% of the argument could have been the other person's fault if we're talking about being a human being. I'm still going to go up and I'm going to say to the person, if I gave you a story, you'd be like, oh my God, you have nothing to say to that person other than how dare you. I will go up and I will find something like, I apologize for the manner, the tone that I used to react to you. I will find a way. Then I go to sleep when I hit the pillow like this because I have made amends. I got everything off my chest. I sleep like a baby because I haven't done anything wrong today or I've since learned ever in my life. I don't believe anyone's ever done anything good, bad, right, or wrong. I believe what they do, they just do. I'm in the business of isness. It just is. It's my reaction to it that's going to dictate how I'm going to feel. So somebody hits me over the head with a bat. They did it. Now it's my reaction that's going to dictate how I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's what I want to happen, nor do I condone the behavior, but I try to stay out of the judgment business. Judgment is the thief of serenity.
Wow. That's amazing. So would you say that it was in those meetings that you learned that serenity?
I learned a lot.
There?
I learned a lot. I mean, if you look, listen, when you talk about the 12 steps, immediately people are like, whoa, people are weirded out by that. So if you read my book, anyone who's been through the 12 steps goes, wait, you have program in you? I could tell, anyone who's been through program, they can tell that I'm heavily influenced by that. But you look at the 12 steps, built into the principles are being of service. And my life is all about being of service. That's why I'm here with you. And not with my buddies on my weekly poker game that I truly love, right? I'm here with you because something more joyous is coming from it. I'm being of service. And selfishly, that helps me. Also, meditation is in the 12 steps. Prayer is in the 12 steps. Like, really? The only time I'd ever really communicated with God was like when I was on the bathroom floor that one time I chose to do shots of Jim Beam in college, But what other connection did I have to a higher power? Now I truly believe that there is a higher power of my understanding. I choose to call God. And my God is a loving God. It's a God of my creation. And my God wants the best for me, and I'm of service to my God. I don't take from my God. I say, how can I be of service to you today? What can I do for you? How can I help people? And that's what I do every day. And I feel better,
That's beautiful. And so when you first started this conversation, one of the things that you said was that you were in a loveless home. I think I heard you say those words.
No, that wouldn't be accurate. I would say that we, loveless? No.
Maybe I misunderstood what you said, but I thought you said something about love and
There was no love. So let me explain. First of all, my wife and I are celebrating 21 years of marriage very soon. I adore her. She's my best friend. We've been through extraordinary challenges and growing opportunities together. We have. I mean, you talk about addiction and how that affects your life. We've had a lot of challenges. That said, if you get working, independently and collectively, then things are wonderful. So all I meant was there was no love in the household, meaning we lost a baby. My wife and I are dealing with it very differently. If I'm her, I would have hated everything about me at that moment, the way I was acting, right? And similarly, when we lost a dog, also no tools. How do I deal with things? I would never act like I did back then. Now I would never do that. So what I'm saying is there was no love, meaning we were not on the same page.
Maybe there was no alignment in that moment.
I'll give you that amendment, that friendly amendment. I accept that amendment from you. Thank you.
Yeah. And what I love about that is how many of us are misaligned in our homes and feel like we have no hope. And I think that you are an example of hope.
I'm a freak, though. I'm a freak. I'm not your typical person. In fact, my sponsor in Al-Anon and Nar-Anon said, no, he's never seen anybody work the steps like their life depended upon it the way that I did.
And why? Why did you work the steps like your life depended on it?
Number one, the pain was so extraordinary. I was metaphorically and literally on my knees at times. My wife is away. I got 3 little kids. What the F happened to my life? How did this happen? How did I get to this point? So I was willing to do whatever it took. The pain that I experienced was the greatest thing ever. I never would have done this stuff. These principles that I'm talking to you about probably were in my life years earlier, but one ear and out the other, right? So and then I did some math. I said, you know what? If God is good to me, or whoever decides how long I get to be on this earth, I have very limited time left. We all do. Every one of us, even if you're a toddler, time goes by like this. So I wanted, and I still want, every second that I have left on this earth to be the way that I choose it to be. Now, I don't say that I'm always happy. I chose to grieve when my mother was, having cancer, deteriorating her body. I chose to grieve the fact that and I said, my wife's my best friend. My mom was always my best friend. I love my wife, but I assure you, my mom never said, can you get to the point of the story? You know what I'm saying? There's a big difference there. Okay. So I lost my mom, and yes, I chose to grieve. So people say, well, that's a tough thing to be happy all the time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying is you're happy as you choose to be. You choose to be how you want to be, right? You can allow yourself. And so how do I define happy, which is very important? I believe that happiness is what results when you choose thoughts that serve you well.
Wow. Okay, let's repeat that. Say that again. Say that again. Everybody should write that down.
Well, no, you can define happiness however the hell you want to. Happiness is
I'm telling them to write it down. So say it again. Happiness is
not when you win the lottery, because studies show you have spikes in happiness only to be followed by misery and despair. Although I'll give it a try. Try to break that graph. So happiness is what results when you choose thoughts that serve you well.
When you choose thoughts that serve you well. I love that.
So every given moment, you have a choice. Every single thing that happens to you, everything going on in your life, everything. And when hopefully we have time for questions, you can say, yeah, but Mark, what about this? And then we'll talk about it. We'll analyze it. But
for those of you that are on the call that are new, just so that you know the format of how we work, for those of you that come on the calls all the time, you know this already. We welcome your questions at any time. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to put it in the chat or to just raise your hand and I will call on you, because this is really good stuff. And I want to make sure that if you have something specific for Mark, that he's here to serve you. And that's a gift.
I call it cross-examination. Give me your best shot. Right? I had someone say, so one of the principles of my book is, I believe that we were born happy. And that's important to me because the process that I go through, not if, but when I have pain, because at any given moment, I'm going to have pain again, right? Somebody stole my Facebook account, one of my Facebook accounts. That's over 15,000 people gone. Now, I've been trying to get it back for hours. It might be gone like my Twitter page, 24,000 followers, gone. I'm worried. So in that moment, I'm human. I go, okay, what's the first thing I tell people to do? Stop. Just stop. Stop. It's like an adult timeout. Take a deep breath. Studies show taking a deep breath is key. Take a deep breath. I remind myself of who is in control of the situation, not Facebook, not anybody else but me. My license plate, which is personalized, serves as a daily reminder to me as to who is to bring me happiness. And my license plate says JUST space YOU, just you, just you. So I remind myself after I take that deep breath, after stopping, I say, okay, just you. It's me. I'm on total control. And then it's up to me in that moment to decide how I'm going to feel. And I try to reframe everything. I say, well, okay, wait, worst case scenario, wait, I'm going to lose my Facebook account. Okay, so what am I talking about? What does that mean? I'll get another, like, what am I doing? And I go through it and I try to change the thoughts to change how I feel. Forget what the original question was, but I got off on that tangent, but I think I was answering. Where were we? I mean, I was just trying to give you an example of how I was just going through that before this Zoom call, you know, like, oh my God, like that sucks. You know, I communicate that way. I promote things. I help people understand legal issues. I give doses of spirituality. And now I just lost 15,000 people I may never get back, you know? And so, okay, so what? I'm not going to give up my happiness. It's too important.
You know, I remember it was Dave Bricker's birthday, and you and I had communicated back and forth, and we had decided that we were going to surprise Dave for his birthday. We were going to meet at Barry's for breakfast, and you said, I'll be there. And his birthday came and went, and all of us, and you didn't show up. And then you text me and said something like, all right, well, I'm set to go. I'll see you tomorrow at, 8 a.m. sharp, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, that was today. And he said, no, I have it on my calendar. It's tomorrow. I'm coming from Fort Lauderdale, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be there. I said, no, it's today.
I was upset.
You remember that?
Oh, I was really upset.
And you were, hang on, somebody needs to mute themselves. And I remember that. And you were really upset because you wanted to be there for your friend.
Right.
And you got the days confused, and you were, if I'm not mistaken, the day you actually called me the next day and you were in traffic. You'd been in traffic for like 45 minutes on your way.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, Mark, turn around, go home, go back to Fort Lauderdale. And I remember the way that you reacted to that. And I was so impressed with you because you showed, you were an example of what you teach. You thought about it, you kind of stopped, you're like, okay, you assess the situation. And then you said, there's a lesson here, oh God, and you kind of like, you walked yourself off this ledge with me on the phone, and I saw you experience that. And it was really cool.
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing up that story. I'm still triggered because I'm really pissed off that I wasn't there. Like, not just because he's here, but I really wanted to be there. Dave, I don't know if anybody, he's just a great guy. I really like him. He helped me through one of the most difficult times, writing a book. I mean, there's nothing easy about that. So I really wanted to be there. Like, it's the least I can do. Like, I really wanted to be there. And then I was on my way in traffic, all excited. I had made tremendous sacrifices to be there. But what do? I mean, what I have two choices in that moment. What, I'm going to waste a second being pissed off? Every second that I have left is precious.
Yeah.
They call it the present. It's a gift. It's all that stuff. So I'm not going to waste it. I mean, sometimes I do. I'm human. I react and then I go, hold it. But I catch myself shortly thereafter, usually. And I say, all right, this is happening not to me, but for me. What's the lesson here? And maybe if it had an impact on you, which was the unintended consequence, then maybe that was the reason. I don't know.
Maybe. I just remember the way that you reacted, and it stuck with me to the point that it's been, 4 years since that, or 3 years. And I still remember how you handled that. So it was very impressive.
Missing someone's birthday in the scheme of things is easier to manage than my son during COVID time, he was in his freshman year of UCF, went in with pneumonia, complicated pneumonia. And then they moved him to the ICU and he looked like he'd lost like 20, 30. The kid was, literally the doctor gave him 80% chance. My wife called me, he goes, doctor's giving him 80% chance. And then like she had to go. I'm like, 80% chance of what? This is my firstborn, or second if you count the first one. But like, what is this? Like, that's some crazy shit. And the truth of the matter is, I'm very proud of myself, even in that scenario. I go, he's going to be fine. Against all odds, and he spent like a long time in the hospital, a long time. He's going to be fine. And I never allowed myself for too long. There was a moment I broke down, I was on my knees, I cried. I go, okay, I'm done. In other words, I allowed myself to feel. You don't ignore your feelings. In fact, I think it's important and it's healthy to feel things. It's okay to feel anger too, and frustration and sadness. These are all wonderful things. They're not the opposite of happiness. As long as you're allowing those things to occur, it's fine. When you're going off the rails.
Here's a question that I have for you. You're a successful attorney, and going through this process that you went through just to turn you into a better human being, right? A happier, more mindful,
Yes.
Better husband, better father. That would have been enough. Why did you start speaking about it? Why did you feel compelled to write a book? Like, why go that extra step to actually do this for a living, or in addition to your living?
Great question. I don't know that I've ever really consciously thought out why, what were my motives? The simple answer is because I knew it would help people. And then I know to my core, helping people helps me. I also know that it's the ultimate in taking something that was so presumably negative, although again, that's a good, bad, right or wrong, positive, negative, I don't deal in that, but it was something that appeared to be negative. And now I turned it around. And now my wife and I, independently and collectively, we're out there helping people. Well, that's the ultimate. That's getting way past the pain. That's being of service. I don't know what Albert Schweitzer said. I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, those among us who will truly be happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. So I've known that since I'm little. The more service you do, yeah, you help tons of people, but selfishly, you help yourself. You can't be in a bad mood when you're being of service. Right now, if I have to believe that something I'm saying is helping someone, so that makes me feel good. And in this moment, if this is all I have, and this is all I have, right now, this is all I have, I'm feeling wonderful. This is my dharma. This is my purpose. I'm aligned with my higher power. I don't have any problems. Facebook, schmacebook, that doesn't mean anything to me right now. I'm here, I'm present, and it makes me feel good. So when I'm giving keynote speeches, or when I'm helping clients go through hell, when I'm helping anyone who calls me, and every day I'm getting constant calls because I'm always putting myself out there, selfishly, I'm being helped.
So here's another question. Do you still enjoy being a criminal defense attorney? Being in the, having experienced this other side of life, why not give that up? Do you still enjoy that?
Yes. To say that I enjoy every part of it wouldn't be right. I told you early on that I don't necessarily love when I have to argue. I don't love, the stress that sometimes can come on, and I've got to actively work on keeping it away. Obviously, if I had a job that didn't involve such high pressure, I suppose I wouldn't have to actively work that hard. But then I change my thoughts and I say, my community needs me. The clerks, the judges, the prosecutors, they need my energy. I know it's difficult because sometimes the darkness doesn't like the light, but I bring it. Judge goes, how are you, Mr. Eiglarsh? I go, I'm choosing to be wonderful, Judge. What's your choice today? And everybody's hearing that and they're going, whoa, what? And I feel like I just have to be of service in a very difficult world. So would I walk away? I don't know. It depends what else is available. I still have financial, commitments with 3 kids, 2 who are still in private school, 1 who's in college now. Will I keep doing it at this level? Actually, what I've done is my plan was, and it worked, get to the point where you can be more selective with the cases that you take. If I can smell that someone's going to be a challenge to me, I don't have to take the case. I have that ability to select the cases I want, but it took a while to get to that point.
Something that came up when you were talking about it being difficult is the fact that you still have to go through that also makes you relatable, because you get to experience those stresses and those. So it's almost like working a muscle. You're always working that muscle and you're always putting your own formula, because so for those of you that don't know, Mark has come up with a formula, and we've got some people on here like Marley Q, who I am a huge fan of, who talks about BEST. And we've got Betsy Guerra, who talks about Fuse. And we've got Luli B, who talks about Spark and Boost. We've got people here that love acronyms, and they share amazing things in the world. So Mark has an acronym called SALADS, and we decided that we weren't going to go into it too in depth here because we don't want to dilute the message. But you are putting, I have an acronym CORE, right? So you are putting your formula to work on a daily basis. And I think that there's a lot of value to that. So, so it's also making you better at what you are preaching to those around you.
I'll throw out a few of the kind of like points that some additional things that I do. And this is going to sound wacky, but folks, if you somebody's got some.
Somebody trying to ask a question, or did you guys? I muted them. Go ahead.
Right. So this is going to sound super wacky. Okay. There's a couple things that I do. Let me build up to the wacky. Okay. So some things that I do on a daily basis that are not wacky. Okay. Before I go to sleep, every single night, I pull out my phone. I go to the notes section. And again, you can do this on paper. You can do this on your computer. I put the date. I write the top 5 things for which I'm most grateful that occurred during the day. You don't have to do 5. Studies show if you do 3, you're good. Now, the value in doing that before I go to sleep is my mind has all that stinking thinking, that incessant chatter. The average person, 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Lawyers have double because we've learned to bill for our thoughts. It goes over well in a non-lawyer crowd. And the constant chatter, right? When you're replacing those thoughts with thoughts that serve you well, like, wow, Caroline picked me to share my message with right now 20 people. What a gift. And I'm going to start to relive, and I'll think about what I said, and that'll make me feel good. So it serves 2 purposes. One, I'm reliving the moments of my day that brought me gratitude and love. And then secondly, because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to have to write 5 things, or I have the opportunity to write 5 things for which I'm most grateful. I then start to live a life of gratitude. An attitude of gratitude starts to develop. So I'm looking for things during my day that I know in just like a snap of a finger, I'm going to be on my back, ready to go to sleep, and I'm going to have to put those things down. So I'll pull over and somebody's got a flat tire. I'll make sure they're taken care of, and I'll hand them $20 and drive away. And they're like, what the hell just happened? That shouldn't have happened. Like weird things that throughout my day, I know can make a difference with people. Okay. So that's one thing I do. We talked about meditation. I do that all the time. Exercise, key, releases natural endorphins. Long gratitude list, same as a short gratitude list, but I do that throughout the day. Whenever I'm feeling in a way that I don't want to feel, I pull out a sheet of paper. Usually I do it on a sheet of paper or the iPhone, again, notes. And you don't just write down the top 3 things for which you're most grateful or the top 5 like I do. You don't stop. I'm grateful I got out of bed this morning. There are people who didn't. I'm grateful for that last breath of air. I'm grateful for that second breath of air that I just took. I'm grateful for my pinky finger. I'm grateful for I'll go my body. I'll spend 10 minutes on each kid. And I am telling you that what you're doing is you are replacing the thoughts that don't serve you well with thoughts that do. But wait, that's built on the premise that we have only one thought at any given moment. I don't know about that, Mark. Is that possible? Yes. But what about multitasking, Mark? I can multitask. So I got multi thoughts on my head. No, that just means you're doing several things really crappy at the same time. To prove that you have one thought at any given moment, I want everybody to count down from 10 to 1 backwards. Go. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, stop. Very easy. Okay. Now I want you to do the same thing without pausing. And while you're counting down 10 to 1 backwards, I want you to spell happy. Ready? Go. Okay, you can't do it.
Can't do it.
No.
I can't do it.
What happens, so that again is a simple example of many that proves that you have one thought at any given moment. So if I can keep stringing together thoughts that serve me well, if the next thought that I have serves me well, and the next thought that I have serves me well, and I just keep going, life is about every second filling your thoughts that serves you well. Now you got 60 seconds of things that you are doing that serve you well. Now 5 minutes, now an hour, and you just don't stop. And when your friend Sally is going to make you miserable, it's time to cut her loose. You know, gossip is black magic of the planet. Who wants to hear that shit anymore? The news, I cut a lot of that out, which is ironic because I'm on there talking about things on every major network constantly. But the bookers will say, so did you hear about the killing in San Francisco? I'm like, absolutely. You need me to be an expert on that? Sure, I'll be on tonight. And then I go study it in that limited moment. I read the horrible details, but I try to avoid that stuff. So now what was the weird, wacky thing that I do? And I have many other exercises, but here's what I do. 80%, let me lead up to this. 80% of the thoughts that we have on a daily basis are thoughts that don't serve us well. Oh my God, you look horrible. Look at that cellulite. You're not pretty enough. Look at Caroline. She's beautiful. I'm not as pretty as her. Look at him. He's so successful. Look at it. We're constantly comparing ourselves. We're disciplining ourselves. We have constant fear, right? There's all that going on. So my brain is filling me with thoughts, 80% that don't serve me well. And 90% of the thoughts that I had yesterday are thoughts that I'm going to have today, are the thoughts I'm going to have tomorrow. So we're repeating in a vicious cycle, thoughts that don't serve us well. It's horrible. So what I do is I separate myself from my thoughts. First, I had to learn I'm not my thoughts. Thoughts are just there for consideration. How many times does my brain tell me, catch up to that person and kill them, you know, like crazy things, and I don't act on it, right?
Right.
I choose what thoughts I want to do, like food on a buffet line. You take what you like and you leave the rest, right? So I literally want to distance myself from my brain and my thoughts. So what I do, ready for the wacky thing? I name my brain. I have a name for my brain.
We do this in core a lot.
Do you?
Yeah. In fact, a bunch of my girls, you guys can talk about, I mean,
Really?
you can put on the chat about Sally, but we talk about that a lot.
You do? See, I love that because again, it's a valuable organ. In fact, your brain, I think, is the most wonderful organ. It helps you breathe. It tells you if that's a Jaws or it's a flipper in the ocean. You know, it helps you look both ways before you cross the street. It does wonderful things. But your brain is nothing more than an organ, just like your spleen and like your colon. In fact, the similarity between your brain and your colon is they both produce crap. So not if, but when my brain starts to send me thoughts that don't serve me well, I say, hey, Biff.
You use Biff from Back to the Future?
100%, because my brain, Biff, has been bullying me like Biff has been bullying Marty McFly for years. And I have a laughing relationship with my brain. I know what you're doing. This is part of the 80%. I know what you're doing. It's all fear-based. Fear, false evidence appearing real. I know what you're doing. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to run out of money. They're not going to hate me when I do this speech tonight with Carolyn. I know they're not going to hate me. Stop it. Stop sending me those thoughts. And I laugh. I know what he's doing now. So you need to have, I'm not telling you need to. For me, I have that healthy relationship where I say, not out loud, because I have places to send people when they talk out loud to their brains. But you just say to yourself, Biff, I know what you're doing. And I just laugh.
Well, so I just got corrected on the chat. It's not Sally, it's Shirley, by the way. Our brain is Shirley. And
you all have the same brain? You all share, Shirley? I like this. You should all come up with your own unique name, and it should be that girl who bullied you in high school. Because but yet that girl served a very valuable purpose for you. So your brain does wonderful things, but it also gives you that incessant thought, that horrible stuff that makes you think less than of yourself.
So Mark, as you're talking about these wacky things, and you're sharing the way that you approach your life, this is cultivating a spiritual practice. And when I think of spirituality and I think of cultivating a spiritual practice, I think of sitting in the forest with with candles and essential oils and praying and so peaceful. Yeah. And here you are, going about your day and just writing things that you're grateful for and silencing Biff and just being this real world, day-to-day spiritual human. And I think that is so awesome that you get
around. I don't think Marley or Carolina or Annie or Anna or Betsy or Sophia, they're not with bald heads in a toga on top of a mountaintop, praying all day. We're out there living real world lives. So if I'm not relatable, if I'm not doing stuff that everybody can do, and by the way, I'm also sitting quietly for 20 to 30 minutes. I used to do it twice a day, but that was too stressful. But for years, I was doing 30 minutes twice a day, sitting and meditating. There's plenty of peaceful time where I have my own time. In fact, I need, after this, I'm going to need to go and sit and be by myself. My wife's going to say, let's go watch our show. I'll say, no, I need some time. There's that time too. It's not with oils and I don't need anything, special and nice and smelly like she likes.
It's just something that I think about, right? When I think of spirituality, that's just the image that I have, but I love that you show us real life spirituality in practice, daily grind kind of spirituality. And I think we need that too.
I don't know what is the difference. I really don't know the answer. I go spirituality / mindfulness. I don't know if there's a difference, but to me, it's all the same thing. It's just being mindful. So washing your car. And if that somehow waxing on and waxing off somehow is what works for you, that's great. I'm never telling anybody what to put in their spiritual tool belt, whatever works for them. In fact, I don't even say drinking a bottle of vodka is a bad thing. Because who knows, maybe the alternative that night was putting a gun to your head, and pulling the trigger. So I'm not going to tell people what's good, bad, right, or wrong for them. Just whatever works for you, whether that's the strongest choice, whether that's working for you. We all have different ways to show our mindfulness to ourselves,
Love that. So we have a bunch
Caro, to your point,
Go ahead. No, you muted yourself, Betsy. Hang on.
To your point, I think that we think of spirituality as something having una toga, and doing this perfect practice and meditation in the ocean or in the mountains. And so then we put it off. And I think what he's making very clear is that we can do that right now without changing our lives a bit by just being intentional and mindful about what we're doing in the life that we already have created, right? So I think what he's doing is making spirituality or spiritual growth accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And we have this misconception of what it is,
Yeah. And it's whether you're in the car in traffic or you're dealing with something negative or you're sitting in silence for a few minutes or you are taking time to yourself or you're washing your car. I think it's just so beautiful how you've put this. Now, I do want to share with you a few comments because we have Annie who said, thank you. You've helped me with your stories and how to see the best in each situation. Janice shared that she started doing the gratitude list when she started CORE. So I'm very proud of that. They say after 21 days of doing it, you'll have a more grateful heart, what I love about what you said, Mark, and I think that this is super important to note. I've done a lot of research on gratitude, and what's important about gratitude is not even what you're grateful for. It's in the act of searching for it. So the fact that you said, Mark, that you spend your entire day looking for things to be grateful for so that you have something to write on your list, those 5 things to write on your list at the end of the day, means that you are actively seeking gratefulness, and where energy goes, where focus goes, energy flows. So it's like you're putting yourself in a mind frame of constant gratitude because of the act of searching for it.
Gratitude is like the antidote to unhappiness. How could you be filled with gratitude and be unhappy, right? We're in the worst things that happen to us pale in comparison to what's going on in these other countries in the world. I mean, if somehow I'm going to lose my stuff over a Facebook account or, anything really, just go watch some documentaries about what goes on anywhere else, right? We should be waking up like life is wonderful. It just is. And if it's not, then find out what's blocking you. And by the way, you all were born happy, right? And I know I started, I say that earlier, but what happens is we then download thoughts that don't serve us well. You don't have to go looking for happiness. It's already inside of you. So you just have to get rid of the thoughts that no longer serve you well. And then you're restored to how you were when you came out of your mother. And I had somebody say, no, I don't agree. I think we were born miserable when we spend our lives trying to scrounge for an ounce of happiness. And to that lawyer female, I said, you may be right. And I just moved along. But the truth of the matter is, look at any toddler. As long as their basic needs are met, clean diaper, full belly, decent environment, they're happy.
Yeah.
Question is, what the hell happened to us? We put all these thoughts in, we start acting like humans. Just get rid of the stuff that doesn't serve you, and you're restored to how you came out.
I love that. So on that note, we have 1 minute till 10 o'clock. And I love to respect your time because you are all you'll have to sleep and rest and sit in silence. So we are going to be finishing this call very shortly. If there is anything that you want to ask, I talked to Mark before the call, and he is so gracious that he said he gave up his poker night for us, which means that he is available to answer any questions that you may have at the very last minute. So he can stay on for a few minutes, but I just want you guys to know that you're free to go, and you're welcome to stay for a few more minutes if you have anything you want to ask. But I want to go over the comments because there's just so much in here. Betsy loves your brain and colon analogy, and now she wants to use it. Luli talks about how she does an exercise when she speaks, and she invites the women to name their negative voice, and many of them choose evil characters from Disney movies. So she loves that you chose Biff. Rebecca talked about how we discussed shutting Shirley's bullying out, and now she's better than her. And let's see, Betsy, thank you for your comments. It's amazing. By seeking, Mark is being more present and training his mind to get in the habit of thinking positively, which is amazing. And everyone is saying thank you, Mark, because you have been absolutely wonderful. But Janice wants to know a little bit about meditation. So will you give us a few more minutes to talk about meditation?
Okay, so the benefits are well documented. It's science. It's not just for the woohoo. Okay, so you Google the benefits of meditation. They're all there. For me, it made me more of a responder rather than a reactor, which helps me in court. I used to react. Somebody does something, I react. Now I have that beat. I can slow things down for the most part and then think about it and then respond. So it helps me with that. Also during meditation, I'm just going with the benefits and I'll tell you about the actual practicing of it. I also if I'm not sure about something, I'll meditate on it and then things come to me, so ideas come to me because of that. Okay. And there's many other benefits. All right. So how to meditate? There's so many different kinds and there's no good way, bad way, right way, or wrong way. There's guided meditations where you could just listen to somebody put you on a beach and feel the sand between your toes. And now you're doing all that. That's great. I do primordial sound mantra where I went all the way out to the Deepak Chopra Wellness Center where they, based upon when I was born or whatever, they gave me a series of sounds that is what I use as my anchor. So not if, but when I have thoughts during my meditation, I gently drift back to that mantra. Now I don't say it out loud, but it doesn't, it could be love, peace. It could be your children's names. It could be shamalama ding dong. It doesn't really matter. It's just having an anchor. Many people use their breath as an anchor. So you have this anchor and you sit quietly, and not if, but when. And I always say when, because unless you're a sociopath or you're in a coma or you're dead, you're going to have thoughts. You're going to. Meditation is not the absence of thoughts. It's being aware of your thoughts and then gently drifting back to your anchor. In my case, it's the mantra. In your case, it might be your breath. Just, okay, thought, come back to my breath. And you do that for a period of time. And it's a practice. And there's no goals. You just do it. Don't have expectations and just do it. It's a practice. Start off with 1 minute a day. Then when you're ready, go to 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And you may say, what am I doing this for? Thought. I still have thoughts. But it just, over time, it's a practice and you get better at it.
Well, one last thing that I want to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You had told me that you created a program for the Broward Bar.
Yes.
With about mindfulness, and I just wanted to thank you because lawyers struggle so much. We argue so much. There's so much stress, and I really value and appreciate the fact that you have gone out of your way to help lawyers specifically combat the stressors. And I know you say that they're all the same and everybody's stress is the same, but it's proven. Attorneys deal with a lot of mental health issues, and a lot of it is because of the environment. And you are a pillar, and you're an example, and you're leading, and you're serving, and lawyers need your work.
First of all, thank you. And I was listening, but I was also typing as I was listening. I am now putting in the chat. Let's see, everyone, return. browardbar.org. You go to that website. It's a Broward Bar website. And then you look for the logo, Happiness Guaranteed in 30. It's a program that I created. It'll take you through 30. It's Happiness Guaranteed in 30, that in 30 days, you can become happy. And it literally tells you, like, the first week, you do 1 minute of meditation and you do one random act of kindness. That's for 7 days. Then the second week, 2 minutes of meditation, 2 random acts of kindness. Like, it takes you through it, real basic. And there's lots of good, I wrote all about meditation, all the acts that you're doing. Go there. And then the other one I will put in is my personal website, Be Happy by Choice. And I want to offer you guys, behappybychoice.com. That's my website. Send me emails. You have questions. Anytime you're allowing me to be of service, send me your questions or comments. Okay. I had to share your sister Jenny thinks you're a rock star. I don't know who that's to.
Who's Jenny?
I have a sister Jenny. I don't know if that's for me.
That must be for you.
All right.
Are you talking to Mark about his own sister?
Or maybe you know someone. Oh, yes?
Oh, she knows your sister. It's a small world.
So I missed the call from the beginning, but your sister-in-law was my oldest son's kindergarten teacher.
Well, there you go.
And then I'm like, Eiglarsh isn't really common. And then I was looking through my Facebook and I saw Jenny. Well, I used to work with Jenny at Sunny Isles Beach.
Small world, unless you have to clean it.
Very small world.
Thank you. Any other questions while we have just a few more minutes?
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
I put behappybychoice.com.
Okay, great.
My note address and speak, and then there's speaktomark.com, but that's criminal defense stuff. Let them go to your husband for that.
And make sure that you guys follow him on Instagram and on Facebook, unless that account is compromised. So maybe that's not the right account, but make sure that you're following him on Instagram and show your support and love. So if you guys have loved this session, please put it on.
Dave Bricker's raising his hand and he deserves to be heard.
Oh, Dave Bricker always deserves to be heard in my platform.
Please. You got to unmute yourself though, Dave.
Dave, you know the magic.
No, you did it twice. No, hit it again. Hit it again. One more, Dave. Maybe just write it.
There it is. Now it's giving me 2 buttons. I had hit the one at the bottom and the one in the middle of the screen. Anyway, Mark, I just wanted to say I appreciate your friendship, even though you blew off my birthday.
Yeah, something else came up. That was
It's good to see you. And thank you, Caroline, for another great session and for all the shout outs. I appreciate it.
Dave was an expert on our core Connect with Core also, Mark, and he was fabulous. So for my core sisters that haven't seen his session, make sure that you go into our app, go to topics, and go to the recorded calls, because if you haven't seen Dave's, it's amazing. You're gonna love it.
If you ever want to feel like you're not a good writer when you think you are, just send your stuff to Dave. He tears that shit up, and my goodness, you go, wow, that's what good writing is.
That's exactly right.
Well, the true test of somebody's ability to attain happiness is after you've taken a scalpel to their manuscript and they're still your friend and they still want to be a writer. So you guys both qualify in spades. It's never fun tearing up the work of people you love and respect.
Thought I had a lean filet mignon, and I realized I had some fatty steak that you had to rip apart.
That's right. That's right. But I always say, few people are willing to do the work and do what Dave makes you do. And the fact that you were willing to do that shows it's the same thing as the 12-step program. It's you are a person who is willing to do the work. And when you're willing to do the work, your results show. It shows in your personality, it shows in your work, it shows in your book, it shows in everything that you are, because you're a person who is willing to do the work.
It's the 1200 step program.
That's right. That's right. And Marley Q, who is a kindness expert, she wrote that she loves that you inspire people to perform acts of random kindness, which is her acronym PARK. And she has dedicated her life to parking to people. So I would love for you guys to connect, because your themes and your philosophy on life is very aligned, and I think you guys would connect amazing. So thank you, everybody. It has been so wonderful to see you all. If you guys are not part of CORE, I encourage you to join so that you have access to this amazing man's recording. If you are looking for an amazing challenge, remember that we have our Rejuva Fast Challenge coming up July 25th. We are going to be fasting for 5 days, which is part of cultivating a spiritual practice. And if you really loved what you heard today, make sure that you give Mark a shout out on Instagram, tag him, put a quote, do something, and let's serve and share the good with everybody else. So thank you so much for being here, and I love you guys. You're free to go.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Very grateful. Take care, guys.